Okay, we had another great discussion online. Many of you made some excellent points about this case, whether Yang Torland should accept this um, contract from Gross Versand or not. And it seems as though the consensus was that this is a good deal for Yang to accept. And but there are some of you were pointing out that wow, there's this seems to be a little one-sided contract, and we'll talk about that because it in fact is. One of the key factors in any potential agreement between Yang Toyland and Gross Versand is whether Gross Versand follows through and actually takes delivery of the second half of the original order. Only if this happens is this investment even worth the additional equipment that they'd need to fulfill the entire order. And so that's a key element. And I mean, if you kind of look at this as a break-even analysis, and you take the amount of money, I think it was 400,000 Singapore dollars that they would need in additional equipment to fulfill the full order. But if you consider that they're making $50,000 profit, now of course the profit per unit would actually go up as you gain some economies of scale. But at that, it would be worth it. However, if they don't take the order, if they don't take the second half of that order, then boy, this is not a good deal for Yang Torland. And some of you pointed that out. So that's a key element. And so obviously the greater amount of sales leads to the benefit. A major risk with this type of agreement is that Yang Toyland can become overly dependent on Gross Versand, and that's is a big problem. That's one of the biggest disadvantages of this. Is now all of a sudden you've got yes, it's good that you have a major customer like this, but the problem is you're now not necessarily you're highly dependent on. You are highly dependent on Gross Versand. And so usually what happens is if you get an order like this, then you turn to your salesman and you say, great, that's outstanding. However, now we need to find other customers so we're not highly dependent on these guys. Because if all of a sudden Gross Versand then the next year decides not to buy anymore, you've got all that investment in equipment, and so you're in a tough position. An advantage of this is that it does somewhat geographically diversify Yang Toyland's sales, and so that is good. They can this diversification, geographically speaking, helps them to spread out their risks. Perhaps another potential advantage is the greater profit that can be generated from the economies of scale. So you say, well, this is good. So then what should be YC's objective when he goes back to Herr Clausen in 2 weeks with probably the idea of accepting the contract? Well, he would probably want to try maybe renegotiate some of the terms of those contracts, in that he needs to try and get more assurances on the second half of the order, and that will be accepted as long as the quality meets of the first shipment meets the specifications. And so if I think I try and write that in there, that as long as the quality of the first half of the order meets all the specifications, that it is an assured thing that the second half will be ordered and fulfilled. And I think that's the only reason that Gross Versand has structured the contract the way it is, because Yang Toyland, they don't know the quality of that they are able to produce, and so therefore they didn't want to order the full bit. So I think you can, if you can get at least that concession, then I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable with this. So one thing I like about this case is it shows the complexities of this, of going international, where you have usually you have a small firm that is almost at a great disadvantage with a well-established retailer that can offer large volume deals for this really small player. And so now you get the idea of what it's like if you were to try to get a contract with someone like Walmart or something like that, where you're a relatively small, medium-sized company, and a large retailer or wholesaler or something like that really starts trying to dictate the terms on you. And so you're faced with, wow, this could be the sale of the century for us, but at the same time, they get to dictate all the terms. So anyways, the discussion was great. I'm going to make one change for future discussions, since we have so many people in this class. 23 is a lot in an online class, and to ask all of you to try and post 3 comments per discussion, it's hard to make 3 comments. I'm starting to realize that it's hard to further the discussion that far. There's just not that much content. So I'm going to change the requirements and make it you only have to respond twice, make 2 comments per discussion. That will allow some people to get kind of something in that may be unique that hasn't already been said, and so there will be a little bit less repetition. So we'll do that from now on, and I appreciate your discussions, and we'll see you online.